Hello, hello. We are at it again, and you are on another episode of Mental Health, the New Wealth. I am your host, Nikita Nicole, the Illuminist, and I'm so glad that you are here with me again for another episode. We are dedicated on this podcast to make sure we give you fire content based on mental health. And today is no different. We have a special guest with us today. She is an entrepreneur, mother, wife, amongst so many other things. In today's episode, we will discuss her brand and her entrepreneur life balance. So sit back, relax, and let's dive in. Before we get into this episode, let me say that I am not a licensed mental health professional nor a doctor, although I will host licensed professionals as guests from time to time. The mental health difficulties discussed on this podcast will come from extensive research, life experiences of myself and others, and are not to be taken as diagnosis, prescription, or cure to any health mental difficulties or disorders. If you are experiencing deep mental health difficulties of any kind and have lasted for any duration of time, please contact your local mental health professional for assistance with treatment. If you or someone you know is suffering with mental distress or thoughts of suicide, you are not alone. Please call the toll-free National Suicide Prevention Hotline, open 24/7 at 1-800-273-8255. Again, that is 1-800-273-8255. Now let's get into the episode. We have my good friend here, Tiera Cuffie, the owner of Cuff Your Pearls makeup brand, and we are excited to have you here today. How you doing, sis?
I'm doing good. Can't complain.
We are so excited to have you. I love your brand and what you stand for. So we're going to ask you about some things regarding mental health and just how it plays a major part in your life, how you feel about mental health, and just everything that is Tiera Cuffie. So we're going to start with this first question. What inspired you to start your makeup brand, and how did you come up with the name Cuff Your Pearls?
What inspired me to start my own makeup brand? Life itself. So I've always suffered with mental health issues. It's just growing up in the Black community, it was never really talked about. It was more so, if you're going through something, you pray about it. What happens in this house stays in this house. That's hard to deal with, especially when mental health issues isn't discussed. They always say kids have nothing to stress about, which isn't true. Kids get stressed out about a lot of things. School, making new friends. They could be trying to cope with their parents getting divorced. I know with me, I'm tall, I'm dark skinned, I have a gap. And those things affected me all throughout life, because if you look at my family, everyone is slender, light skinned, they don't have a gap. So those are things that I had to deal with growing up. So all throughout life, I had mental health issues. I just never knew what it was. Like, why am I sad? Why am I depressed? I didn't know it was depression at that point. But as I grew older, in hindsight, I was just depressed. Therapy wasn't spoken about in our household. We didn't know nothing about therapy. So pretty much I had to find out what worked for me. It took me until I was probably about the age of maybe 25 to realize, like, hey, you have mental health issues and it's nothing to be ashamed about, but you cannot continue to live your life like this. You have to seek help. Like I said, therapy was not spoken about in my community, in my household. It was always pray to God, let go, let God, pretty much. So I got into makeup. I was originally introduced to makeup through my stepmom. She loved makeup. Makeup was just her thing. And I also think that was therapeutic for her at the time, and she probably just didn't know it. I turned to makeup as a way of releasing my pain. The makeup brushes were my pen and my face was my diary. So whatever it is that I was feeling at the time, I would just release it through makeup.
I want to jump in there really quick, because it was something very profound that you said in two parts, because we develop how we think about things, how we see the world. Everything is developed within us pretty much by the age that we are 7 years old. And so everything is programmed in our subconscious at that point. How we deal with trauma, how we deal with different situations, what we see as to being standard in our everyday living. And so a lot of times in the Black community, addressing mental health and, like you said, therapy and things of that nature just became prevalent very recently. We had a lot of family secrets, a lot of things that we didn't discuss as Black families. So because that was the case, a lot of us had issues that we didn't know that we had until they start to play out in our everyday lives as adults. And so I'm glad that you really touched on that as to why you started your brand, because it's very important for people to understand that these things are cultivated before we're even really walking around living life. How we operate, what we do is based off of that little 7-year-old or anything that you learned or anything that you saw or absorbed before the time that you were 7.
I'm glad that you said that, because at the age of 5, I lost both of my grandparents, and they both were addicts. They had their choice of drug, and I was 5. I had just turned 5 actually, and my grandmother and grandfather on my mother's side, they died 2 months apart. And that had a big toll on me.
Yes.
And I know people will probably look like, 5, you don't remember anything. I'm 32 now, and I remember so much. I never witnessed my grandmother doing drugs in front of me, but in hindsight, I can remember just when her whole demeanor would change. And she was never, ever, ever mean, but I can see like when she was sober and when she was high. And that's one reason why I don't fool around with drinking. I don't mess around with drugs. I just feel like I have that. It'll just take one time for me to experiment with something, and then I'm an addict. If my grandparents probably knew anything about therapy, they probably would have chose to go seek a counselor or a therapist instead of picking up drugs. It's not downplaying or judging anyone that does drugs, but I think a lot of people choose drugs because that's their escape route, and therapy or seeking therapy isn't spoken about, especially for men. I'm pretty sure if therapy was something that was spoken about in households, a lot of people wouldn't be ashamed to seek a therapist, because at the end of the day, therapy is pretty dope.
And two, in the defense of the Black communities at the time, especially in the time of the 80s, there was a major influx of drugs in the community. We really didn't need therapists, big mama and, papa and your auntie, your uncle. These were the people that were the matriarchs and patriarchs of the family that you would be able to talk to. Everyone in the family wasn't messed up. But because of, the drug epidemic at that time, a lot of people were susceptible, men especially, and that's a whole nother episode. Men especially, our Black men really do suffer a lot. And so when they're going through things, it's kind of brushed under the rug also. So I totally resonate with you when you're saying we really didn't know about therapy or going to go speak to someone, because before drugs was even a factor, there were healthy, spiritual, in tune people in our families, in our lives that we can go to talk to or work through those things as a family.
I must agree. My mom and dad, they had me at a young age. My mom she got pregnant with me at 16, had me at 17, and my dad was 18. And my dad's dad, which is my grandfather, he was an alcoholic. So you just see how all this stuff, it all comes back to how I came up with Cuff Your Pearls. My parents did the best that they could with what they knew, and they didn't know much, but they were great parents. And till this day, they're great parents. The lack of knowledge about the importance of mental health took a toll, I think, on all of us. Till this day, I'm still trying to figure out how to deal with my mental health. And I'm a mother of 2. And it's an everyday battle. Some people, they might work out. Some people, they might choose to drink. Some people, they might choose to do drugs. Some people eat, whatever. And I'm just so blessed that I had that option to turn to makeup because some people do not, unfortunately. Cuff Your Pearls. Cuff is a play on my last name. My last name is Cuffie. And pearls symbolize wisdom acquired through experience. In life, you're going to go through the good, you're going to go through the bad, you're going to go through the happy, you're going to go through the sad. But what you have to do, you have to learn how to filter out what will make you a better person in life, and you have to cuff it. That's the only way you're going to be able to continue to fight this journey called life. And actually, it came to me in a dream. I'm like, I know I want to use my name, Cuff, but what are we cuffing? And Cuff Your Pearls came to me in a dream. And I looked up, what does pearls mean? And it's wisdom acquired through experience. So there's definitely a deep meaning behind the name.
I love it. I love it because so many times there are brands that just have random names, but I'm glad that you have such a powerful meaning behind the name of your brand. This episode was sponsored by Cuff Your Pearls, where mental health meets makeup. Go on over to cuffyourpearls.com and shop with a brand you can not only feel with, but heal with. CYP makeup products are also affirming, vegan, and cruelty-free. Follow Cuff Your Pearls on Instagram as well as Facebook. So you did mention briefly that you are a mother. I love your babies. They're awesome children, but you're also a wife. You're also an entrepreneur. You're also a sister, a daughter. You wear so many hats. So with all the things that you do and all the things that you were involved in, how do you make sure that you take care of your mental health and wear all these hats at the same time?
Let me just put it out there. It is not easy. It's not easy. It truly takes a village. It takes my mom. It takes my dad. It takes my stepmom. It takes my entire family to help me in order for me to do all these things. For one, we're still in the middle of COVID. So not only am I battling my own mental health issues, I have two little children who really don't know what's going on. One minute they're in school, the next minute they're being pulled out of school. One thing I can say is I take time out for myself. If that means going on a car ride, if that means staying in the shower an extra 10 minutes, if that means sitting in the car in the driveway for an extra 30 minutes, I do that because I notice once I get overwhelmed, then here comes the anxiety, here comes the depression, and then I'm shutting down. I'm glad that you mentioned that because it's very important that we all figure out something that works for us. So I'm glad that you figured out, especially with having children, that it's important to get that time before you have to engage. It's almost like if you show your face, if you come out the shower or you go in the house too quick, it's like you don't have that time for yourself. So I'm going to take this additional time. I'm going to make sure I stay in the car until I'm centered enough to be able to interact with my family. So that's very important that you found something that you can do to really kind of give yourself a break. And you also have to find your trigger points. You cannot ignore that. You have to find your trigger points. Like I know my trigger point one is if I don't get enough rest, I already know that's a trigger point and my day may not go well. Facts. I know if I put too much stuff, unrealistic stuff on my to-do list, that's a trigger point. That's going to cause, here we go, my anxiety again, which is going to lead to my depression, which is going to lead to me shutting down. And then what have I gotten accomplished? Nothing. So you have to listen to your body. You have to know your trigger points. Another thing that I noticed is certain people that I could be around at certain times. That's another trigger point. A lot of friendships I have to end because I'm like, you're just at a standstill. You have to find your purpose. Entrepreneurship isn't for everyone, but if you're at a job that you hate and the only thing that you're doing is complaining and you're not taking any action to change it, how are you benefiting me? Because every time I speak to you, what are you going to be talking about? A job that you hate. But you really have to listen to your body. Some foods may be trigger points to me. I know if I eat a lot of sugars, even a lot of dairy, that messes with me emotionally. I notice that I'm groggy. I can't get my thoughts out. I notice that I don't get anything accomplished on my to-do list. So you have to listen to your body. You also have to listen to your mind too, in order to walk through this thing called life, because it's not easy.
Especially in the life that we live now. For a minute, everybody was like, oh, I want to hurry up and get back to regular life. No, love, this is regular life. We have been in this pandemic on March of 2022. We have been in this pandemic for a strong 2 years. And I don't feel that it's going anywhere. So this is regular life, and figuring out how you're going to show up in this life, how you operate in this life, what makes sense to you in this new life, the old relationships, the old patterns, the old foods, just whatever it is that you used to operate and thrive on, they no longer are working in that way anymore. And so it's really important to restructure yourself for the present tense, the present day. A lot of people don't do that, and they kind of go with the way society is going, and so they're very stressed out, they're very anxious, they're doing all these things because they have not tapped into that little small voice inside of themselves that says, you're doing too much, you need to take a rest, you need to take a break, or whatever it is that that your spirit is telling you. I'm so glad that you are listening to those things. Because you listen to those things, it helps you to be the most effective, not only for you, but for the other people that you're around. And then you're able to be obedient to the call of spirit to come out with such a great, great brand.
Also, I pray a whole lot. Before I get up out of the bed, I'll pray. Throughout the day, I'll pray. I could be at a red light and I'll just start praying. Even if life isn't going how I want it to go, I'll pray and give thanks, because I'm not where I was yesterday. I'm not where I was a month ago.
Ashe.
I'm not where I was a year ago, which is a great thing, which means I'm growing. Besides prayer, my dad. I absolutely love my dad. My dad is the one that carries me from point A to point B. When I'm not feeling well, when I have accomplished something, when life is just throwing curveballs at me, I can call out my father and I can just vent to him. There's no judgment. It's nothing but pure love. So he is, I think out of everyone, he is the main person that gets me through this thing called life. Even during my biggest failures, it's always, it's okay, Tiera. We're going to get through this. You pray, you do what it is that you have to do. I'll always be here to catch you. Like, my dad is literally my backbone. Between prayer and my dad, those are the two things that keep me going. With COVID going on, it's been kind of hard going to therapy. I prefer the old school face to face. I'm not really a big fan of the virtual, but that would be the third thing I think that keeps me going from day to day. But right now is literally my dad in prayer.
Okay, and let me hop in really quick, because that is the part that is unfortunate, because now during the pandemic, there hasn't been a lot of face-to-face therapy sessions, which is very important because you need that interaction with someone face-to-face to feel the energy, to, release the energy. But also in my journey in looking into therapy and getting someone to, be my therapist on a regular basis, it's actually been, very difficult, because if you're not on the brink of, suicide, no shade, if you're not on the brink of suicide, if you're not at risk of taking your life, it's like they almost don't even want to put you on a regular schedule for therapy. A lot of us just discovered during this time of life being shut down that we have some issues that we want to address. So it's really hard right now to find a therapist that will really take the time to speak to you on a regular basis. However, I'm saying that to say, don't be discouraged, don't be dismayed. Still continue to look for you a therapist, still do the work. The best thing you can do probably for yourself is to journal. That way you can at least get those things out. And the best thing that I did hear you say is having a spiritual life. Here on the Mental Health, the New Wealth podcast, we will never tell you who you need to be praying to, who you need to be believing in, but we will always enforce that you need to have a spiritual connection and a spiritual structure, whatever you resonate with. So that was very important. And that was something that was a major key that you said.
Even though I'm an advocate for seeking therapy, I'm also the type of person I need to feel the energy. That's why I would prefer to be in the room with my therapist so I can know, like, are the vibes good? So I'm really big on being in the same room. I want to feel that energy. I want to make sure you're the right one for me. I want to make sure you understand what it is that I'm experiencing. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. I've just been so blessed that I have another option besides seeking a therapist. I have a father. Mm-hmm. That's a blessing all in its own.
It really is. Yeah. Everybody doesn't have one. So for the fact that you do have one, and it's something about that male presence, you know, yeah, your mom can help you, but to have a father to talk to is major. So that is a really big blessing.
Because of him, this is how I actually started Cuff Your Pearls. Like, yes, it had to do with my mental health and me going through things, but just watching him go through the life of an entrepreneur, that inspired me to start my own brand, start my own business, and to actually have a message behind it. So I have to really, really, really thank my father for this.
That's amazing. So the cosmetic or the beauty territory is so big, especially me being in the beauty industry for over 20 years, moving down here to Georgia from California, having such a successful career and coming down here. This is like the beauty mecca. Everyone is involved in beauty or has something to do with beauty in some type of way. And so one would think like, okay, you know, you're doing what everybody else is doing. What makes Cuff Your Pearls different than any other makeup brand out here today?
The main thing is the message behind it. It's strictly focused on the importance of mental health. And I think that's what makes us so different, just shining the light, especially after 2020, the year that we had with COVID and people suffering from mental health issues. The message behind Cuff Your Pearls is just unmatched. It's a community. We're just using makeup to bring everyone together, but we're using mental health to show that we're alike in so many different ways. Of course, we're cruelty-free. We're vegan because what you put in your body affects the way you function. So those are two main things that I wanted to incorporate in this brand.
Absolutely. And let's speak on the fact that cosmetics, beauty, makeup is directly related to mental health via self-esteem, how you feel about your looks, because makeup is supposed to be to enhance, right? But a lot of people use makeup to cover up. It's very important that you love yourself, you love who you are and everything about yourself, so that makeup is just an additive. From a beauty professional standpoint, let's get into this palette. Okay, y'all can't see it. Y'all be able to go online at Cuff Your Pearls. However, let me just tell you that this palette is super cute. It is very colorful, which is very important when you're dealing with mental health issues. When I tell you the pigment don't play, I actually kind of went in because, you know, y'all, I'm heavy-handed on everything. I overuse everything. So when I went into it, it was just like, oh, let me get some of this. I underestimated the pigment and I looked like a glowworm, girl. I had pigment everywhere because the pigment is so creamy and so rich and it's so true. But what I must say that I love the most about this palette, other than the pigmented and beautiful colors, I love the names of the actual tones in this palette, right? So we have I'm strong, I'm worthy, perfectly imperfect, seeking therapy. We got stigma, better days, overthinking, meditation, dig deep, cancel plans, feeling blue, no judgment, unbalanced, patience, and one that reigns true because my last episode was just about this and it's beautiful shade of my favorite color, purple. And girl, the color is called procrastination. So it is so just nice that you incorporated some of the things that we deal with in mental health on a regular basis and gave them names, shades, and colors. And then on the packaging, we have affirmations, peace, I am loved, radiant, strong, in the stigma, mindful. So it's so important that you just put all of these little elements into the packaging, into the actual makeup brand, which did make this actually stand out from any other makeup brand that I have seen before. And truth be told, I'm glad that you were obedient to spirit and came out with this line because I ain't gonna lie, I've never seen nothing like it. You are just gonna take this to a whole nother level. I'm just so excited. Also, your lipsticks and your glosses, which come in matte and also gloss, have names that are in reference to mental health as well. Mm-hmm. So as you're using these products, you are reminded to check in with yourself. You are reminded to give yourself additional love and care and compassion. So I think that is just so dope. How many years have you started in your brand thus far? How many years are you in?
I'm approaching the 1 year anniversary, February 1st, Black History Month.
Hey, okay, February 1st, Black History Month. I know that year went fast for you.
Oh, yeah.
So let's do a little projection. You know what I'm saying? We're going to do some affirmations. We're going to speak some things into existence right now. Where's Cuff Your Pearls now? And where do you see Cuff Your Pearls in the next 3 to 5 years?
So first, let me say this. When God tells you to move, you better move.
Hello. Let's repeat that again. Run that back.
When God tells you to move, you better move. And it's funny that you mentioned this because I just recorded something on my Instagram and it took me hours just to hit the record button and say what it was that I needed to say. And basically what I was trying to get across is God was telling me the idea that I gave you, I gave the other people too. So you can either walk in fear or you can walk in purpose. And what that meant is if I just sit here and I continue to procrastinate and try to make everything perfect, which will never be, the same vision that God gave me, he would take it away and give it to someone that actually believes in him.
Let's speak on that. This whole world is energy, is frequency. We have to be on certain levels, and that's why it's important to do things that keep us on high vibrational levels because that's where the answers are. That's where spirit gives out the best. Now, don't get me wrong. It's low frequency energy and vibrations that we receive too. That is on the level of procrastination, unworthiness. But we want to make sure that we embody those higher level thoughts so we can get the answers to how we're going to move forward in life, how we're going to be provided for, what we need to do in life to move forward. And so because we stay on those frequencies, we can catch all of these good things and all of these good nuggets that are up there. Now, we're not the only people on that frequency, right? There are other people that do their work and make sure that they are flying high to also catch those frequencies, catch those thoughts, catch those things that spirit is putting out there. So you're not the only person that may have received this exact thought. Case in point, and I'll use myself as an example. I had an idea of a makeup brush, right? A makeup brush cleaner. And so you were to put your brushes in there, put the solution in there. It was almost like a makeup brush washing machine, right? Mm-hmm. Didn't move on it, wrote it down, drew it out, everything. Like, didn't patent it though, didn't get any production models of it, nothing like that, and kind of just sit on it, right? Lo and behold, less than 6 months from me creating and drawing all that down, somebody came out with the same makeup brush cleaner that I came out with. And you had all the popping makeup artists using this brush cleaner, and I was hurt. Mm-hmm. I was hurt because I didn't move on the thought Just because it was given to you does not mean that it was not given to others to utilize as well. So it's very important that you said that. And if you guys haven't listened to my episode on procrastination, please make sure you do, because you're not the only one out here that's receiving these thoughts, receiving these downloads. And it's the survival of the fittest. You have those that are willing to believe spirit and just to go with God and just to do their best and allow God to pick up the pieces and bring everything together as they go along. So while you're doubtful of yourself, while you're not moving, while you feel like, everyone is looking at you or whatever the case may be, you have somebody that is just willing to go with God and take that leap and figure out things along the way.
That was a mouthful right there. And I can absolutely agree with that. Like, you have to take that leap of faith. You have to take that leap of faith, because there's a lot of $1 million dreams in the grave. And that's the honest to God truth. It is. So I'm just happy that I took that leap of faith. And it's about shining light on mental health, ending the stigma. When you buy a palette, it's not, oh, I'm just buying another eyeshadow palette. When you support Cuff Your Pearls, you're definitely investing in your mental health. Within the next 3 to 5 years, we have so many goals. One main goal is we will be a household name. We will have a retail store in Georgia, and then we will expand. There will be a place for you to come and visit, a place for you to come and shop, a place for you to come and be heard, a place for you to come and get resources for finding a therapist, for meeting other people like you. This will be a community that we are creating.
So you said something, and it's sounding way, way too magnificent. So what do you mean that when they come there, they'll be heard? What will you be doing to make sure that people are and feel heard?
So besides Cuff Your Pearls just being a retail store, we'll have weekly forums. So that would be the perfect time for you, your family, your friends to come in, connect with different therapists, speak your mind, get the proper feedback, get all the resources that you may need. It'll also be a refuge for all those that are struggling with their mental health. We're also in the process of creating a non-for-profit organization. More information will be available. Our website is cuffyourpearls.com. So that's CUFFYOURPEARLS.com. And you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Cuff Your Pearls.
Thank you so much. I'm definitely going to have you again. And we're going to do some major collaborating this year. I love you. I love your family. I love your brand and everything that you are about. And so is there any last remarks you want to let the people know?
Thank you for having me. I love you too. This is just the beginning. We have so many things planned for Cuff Your Pearls, the brand, the nonprofit organization. Just make sure you guys be well. I love you guys, and you will hear and see more of me.
That's what's up. Can't get no better than that. Thank you guys so much for listening. Until the next episode, your mental health is